Hey, ¿qué tal? How are you doing? I am super, super happy to have you today in Mezcaleando. We have a superstar of the mezcal with me. You cannot imagine how happy I am. Today we are with Misty Kalkofen, one of the big personalities in the mezcal. She get an award to be the best brand ambassador for a brand of the mezcal, something that one day working hard, maybe I will be close to have. Uh, and also is a great advocate for families in Oaxaca, for the industry. She's fantastic. She has the most beautiful smile in the industry. Misty, welcome to Mezcaleando.
Oh, thank you. Now I'm all blushing after that introduction. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I was so happy you asked me.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yes, as soon as I start this series about the people, they are really sell these fantastic product with tradition and culture in United States. The first name that come in my mind is you because, well, you represented or you still represented one of the most successful companies in our industry, the pioneer of the pioneers of also of mezcal in United States, and they stick, right? So mezcal came, nobody knows what it is. I'm pretty sure you have the same experience as me that go in a bar and ask, you have mezcal? And the bartender say, what is that? To now to find in each store or in each bar in the cities of United States at least one bottle of mezcal, even in Italian restaurants, Japanese restaurants, etc. So
Mhm.
uh, I love to start first with a little mezcal because we call this program Mezcaleando. So
Mhm.
what are you drinking, Misty?
I couldn't decide. I brought a few bottles, and I thought maybe you would choose for me.
Well, if you give me a choice, I will totally, with my eyes closed, choose the Chichicapa. That is
Oh,
my all-time favorite mezcal of your
oh, I
brand.
didn't. I don't have a bottle on the table with me. I have a bottle of San Luis Del Rio from 2010.
Okay.
I have Araqueño from Santa Catarina, Minas from 2012.
Uh-huh.
And I have Tobasiche from San Luis Del Rio from 2015.
This Tobasiche is from the close to Miahuatlan.
No, it's from San Luis Del Rio.
Oh, San Luis del Rio, this side. Okay, okay.
Hmm.
No, in this case, I think I will. Oh my God, I would love to get my veladora and give it to you. Can you can you pour it me, please? Let me see. The camera is over. I would love to have some. I, so it's very difficult to pick something maybe maybe the roqueño. You know,
Okay. All
the
right.
roqueño
Araqueño.
is something that right now is very difficult to find. We finished with these
Yeah.
plants, and I hope we will do something for that.
What are
And
you drinking?
well, we I never let the people drink by themselves. So I have, oh my God, with me this screen. I'm not in my house, so I have an screen, so I cannot show the bottle. I am a getting a. Oh, that's true. We cannot see it. This is incredible. There.
Oh, kind
Ah.
of.
So it's a this is a botanical. This is a vegan pechuga made with seven different botanicals. It's made in San Dionisio, Cotepec. Um, so cheers. I like this because it's fresh in my mouth and start my appetite. Cheers.
Salud. Salud.
Oh my God, nothing to start the day with a mezcal, that's for sure. So
Mm.
this is where I will start with you. We know you and me perfectly well that you don't pick mezcal. Mezcal pick you.
Oh, yes.
So in what
100%.
moment Mayagüel pick you?
Oh, it's a little bit of a long story, so I'll try and make it fast, right? So,
Take your time. Take your time. I'm enjoying each minute with you.
so before working for Del Maguey, I was a bartender here in Boston, and Ron Cooper was kind of doing a relaunch with his distributor here in Massachusetts, and he went to a mutual friend of ours, Leo DeGroff. and said, hey, I need help in Massachusetts. Who, if I take them and they taste my mezcal, who's going to understand this? Who's going to get it, you know? And Leo's like, oh, you should go see Misty. And so Ron came into the bar that I was managing at the time, a place in Cambridge called Green Street Grill, on a Friday night, and sat at a two top in the bar, and I was waiting the tables as well as being a bartender. And he just asked, oh, he was with a friend. He goes, we'll have 2 tequila cocktails, whatever tequila cocktails you want. Okay. So I went back and I was making the drinks, and he was watching me make the drinks, and he was looking at the back bar, you know, just like really kind of watching everything. And in my mind, I'm like, I wonder who this guy is, you know? And I went over, I gave him the drinks and checked in on him. And he's like, oh, they're really great. Thank you. And same thing. I'm going about working behind the bar, and he's just watching really carefully how I'm making the drinks. I can see him looking at all of the bottles on the back bar, evaluating the spot, you know. And then 2 seats opened up at the bar, so he came over, and then he started pulling the bottles out of his bag in the woven baskets that Del Maguey comes in, and I just walk over and I'm like, who the hell are you?
Why
Like,
you open a bottle in my bar?
like, who are you? You know, like, he goes, oh, my name's Ron Cooper. I'm a friend of Leo DeGroff. He told me to come and see you, and I import mezcal, and he told me that you might like to taste this. And so thankfully it was a slow Friday night, and so I was able to taste through like 4 or 5 different expressions with him. And my mind was just blown. I'd never had mezcal before. This was 2008, and I had never had mezcal. And with each one, he told me about the family. He was talking about like when it is consumed, you know, like talking about weddings and funerals and, you know, celebrations and all of this stuff. And I was just like, this is amazing, you know. And I remember he handed me a bottle of Tobola and told me they made like 400 liters a year at that point in time, came into the US. And he was just like, make me a cocktail with that. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like, you should just be sipping on this. You don't want a cocktail with this.
Yeah.
But he came back to Boston about a week later, and we went out to dinner because I had finished a degree at Harvard Divinity School. And so the kind of the ritual aspects of the process and how mezcal is consumed really resonated with me and kind of my interests. And so we went out to dinner and we were talking a lot, and I took him to some of my favorite spots here in Boston, like Drinkin' had just opened up, and
Next stop in Boston, I need to looking for you.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I love this city. My God, I love that city, but I never get somebody to bring me to the nice spots. I find it by myself, but yeah, next time I go with you. Sorry for interruption.
No, it's fine. I love people. I love to show people Boston and just the really cool hospitality scene that we have here. But you know, within a year, I went down to. I was invited to go down on a trip to Oaxaca with him and a group of. There were like 15 of us, and it was a really amazing trip. It's like Julio Bermejo was on that trip, Phil Ward, John Lermaire, Jim Meehan, Don Lee, just all of these amazing people, you know. And it was just such a life-changing experience for me. So between like this introduction just out of the blue into these flavors that I had never experienced before, and then having that really intimate experience of seeing how it was made, meeting the families in quick succession, I left there. I left after my first trip, and I knew that my life was changed, and I didn't know how, you know, but that was an experience unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And from then on, you know, Ron started like having me help him in the Boston area. You know, if people wanted a training about mezcal, I would go and do it. But really, that moment of tasting, I'd been studying spirits for years, you know, and I had never tasted anything like that, anything like those bottles that he pulled out of his bag that day. You know, from the depth of flavor, you know, when he was telling me, like, I'm drinking an Araucania right now that's 49% alcohol. If I tasted it in a flight, I would never guess it was 49% alcohol. Like 49% alcohol, half the time that's lighter fluid practically when you taste it, you know, it's just not done well. Like everything about it just grabbed my attention, and I was like, I need to know everything I possibly can about this. So it's really like that night. Thank God Leo deGraff sent him my way, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that night really changed my life because I really thought I was going to open a bar. I thought all these things were going to happen. And just as time progressed and I realized that I couldn't be bartending for much longer because my wrists were bothering me. It was the only company I wanted to work for. It was the only, it was
Mhm.
the only spirit I wanted to represent. And so that was it, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mezcal is very interesting how they coming in directly to our hearts, right? And the people they
Hmm.
are in our industry, they are passionate about it, right? So I didn't stop to say mezcal is not just a liquid in a bottle. It's culture,
Mm-mm.
it's tradition, and it's very interesting, very, very interesting the way that we work that, right? Because when I come in this industry, I don't know what's happened to you. The people have strong ideas, everybody knows everything about it, and more time I spend in the mezcal, more I know that I really don't know nothing about.
I
but
say
but
that all the time.
more you put your nose, you say, oh my god, how wrong I was with this idea, or how wrong I was.
Hmm.
But well, so I went to this step where nobody knows what is mezcal, to the next one that everybody knows about mezcal, everything about mezcal. And I have people, they ask me what kind of axe they using in the palenque for cut the pineapple, the agaves, even kind, is a steel or is a copper, or you say, oh my god. And after we come with the cocktails, right? No, we don't make cocktails with mezcal. I say, my god. Obviously you will not make a cocktail with a fantastic arroqueño, right? But why not with the spadin? So how you be in front of all these assumptions, right? Because it was assumptions that the people was sure that is right, but they really don't.
Uh, well, what I say, especially with the members of my team now, I think it's very easy to, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, right? So a
That's
little bit of
true.
knowledge
That's
is
true. Yeah.
dangerous. And you can go to 4 or 5 different palenques and it feels like you have a lot of knowledge, but in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of the category, and even beyond the category of what agave spirits are in Mexico, 4 or 5 palenques is nothing. You're barely scratching the surface. And right. And so even just going to 2, you realize quickly that the one thing that happened over here doesn't happen over here. And both are totally fine and right and beautiful and are filled with the tradition and culture of the family and the pueblo and all of these things, right? And so I always say there's no absolutes in
Mhm.
mezcal. So what you think may be the one right way, give me 15 minutes and let's talk about another region of Oaxaca, of just Oaxaca, or let's talk about another state, and that's everything from
Mhm.
process to how a plant is named, and I think
Mhm.
that's one of
Mhm.
the things
Mhm.
that's really amazing. And you have to be respectful of that if you're going to be respectful of mezcal, right? Because it truly is a beverage of culture and history and tradition and the family that makes it. And if you want to respect them, you have to be able to respect the diversity of the category, and that there are no absolutes. So there's no one right way to make mezcal. There's a lot of right ways to make mezcal.
Yeah, I'll drink
And
it,
I think
right?
when,
Yeah.
most people, if they, and drink it as well. And I think especially when you tie that into respect, right? Like if you're going to say there's really only one right way to make mezcal, you're going to be showing disrespect to a lot of people who don't deserve it. So if people really do appreciate and love the category, when you tie that aspect of respect into it, they can't help but agree with you. Otherwise they look like jerks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that part, and it's very complicated because, well, in my case, sometimes I present a product that was not presented for only any other brand, so they take a lot of time for me uh, to explain. So they take
Hmm.
me time, et cetera, and was complicated, but it's part of this process to educate.
Hmm.
So. Um, what was the process of education that you follow? You understand, you and your brand understand that was about education, or was about to come into the liquor stores and place the products wherever you want to do? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that I owe so much to Ron Cooper, the founder of Della McGay, in so many ways. But I think what he did, for, especially from the years of like 1995 when Della McGay started, to the beginning of kind of this boom in agave spirits, for that 10 to 15 years of him kind of being a lone wolf out there in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
um, rolling around by himself, not really having anybody else working behind the brand in the US besides him, was he was very smart about who he started talking to about the spirit, right? He started going to sommeliers because aspects of varietals and different species of plants is something that would resonate with somebody who understands wine. The aspects of terroir would resonate with somebody who understands wine. Like all of this language that both the wine and the mezcal category share, right? So going to folks in the wine space, sommeliers, but also going to bartenders, because that was really, you're starting to see the beginning of kind of the craft cocktail, and bartenders who were interested in were like following Dale DeGroff and getting interested in the classic cocktails. They were all about history and knowledge, right? There was a lot of pride in understanding what was on the back bar as these cocktail bars started opening up. So really going to great cocktail bars to introduce your product, even if they didn't end up putting it on the back bar, they were interested in learning something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that really have the access to so many people every single night, especially when you're only the one person rolling around. Because I know what that feels like, because I was the only, ambassador, if you will, for Del McGay for the entire country for about 2 years. And so I understand like the challenge of being that one person with the green bottles, right? And so finding the people that would take that torch and run with it for you, even though they weren't hired by the brand, right? And so I think for me, I've done the same thing. Who are the people that are willing to like march alongside of me because they believe in the category, and not just because they want the the next hottest, coolest thing on the bar, which mezcal is experiencing this huge growth, but because they actually believe in the historical side of it, that they really understand the culture behind it, that they think that they can translate the flavors that people are tasting, where that's coming from. They have taken the time to learn about process and varietals and things of that nature, so that they then can offer that information to the 150 people they interact every night with at the bar, right? Because they can help me a lot more than I can help myself. And so I think that's, education has driven the growth of this category, and it will continue to do so. And I think it's so important, especially if we want this to be a healthy category in the future, right? We want people to be able to make good purchasing decisions. So we want people to be able to ask questions, not to show that they're a know-it-all, but to show that they have care and concern about the direction of the category, and what the producers are doing, what the brand is doing, if they're working with multiple producers. And I think that's super important. I think education's more important than in this category than many others.
That certainly helped, but it's another factor that really helped our category to grow, and this is the cocktail. But at the same time, they start what I call the war of the well. That certainly is destroying our ecosystem in Oaxaca or in Michoacan or in the big states who are producing more espadín or cupreatas, right? They are the main products for the cocktail. So tell me a little bit about this cocktail, because certainly is what they pay the rent of all the companies, right? Because our beautiful wild agaves, they are beautiful, they are super expensive, and I'm super happy about that, because I always thinking that the mezcal have to be expensive, and it's okay. But the espadín come, and they come in the cocktails, and my God, in my opinion, they are the best cocktails when they are in mezcal. You know, they give this smokiness, they give this strong, they bring you this agave in your nose, in your mouth. They are fantastic, and also they pay our rent. So tell me
Hmm.
a little bit, what are your thoughts about the war of the well, and also the cocktails in our industry?
So you call it the war for the well. I think sometimes it's the fight for the bottom, which is not a good thing, right? People are
The
fighting for
fight
the
for the
well.
bottom. I love
The
this
fight for the
expression.
bottom because it's all about price point, right? And there's no recognition of what that means for the beginning of the supply chain if you're going for that super low cost, right? And what that means from an agricultural side. If there's a lot of pressure to have a lot of agave at a cheap price and like whatever that may be, there's a lot of issues that come along with that kind of fight for the bottom and the lowest price, right?
Hmm, hmm.
And so I think that's a problem when you're talking about the war for the well, you know. Um, and
I love
I,
your expression. I totally noted. It's fantastic.
yeah,
The fight for the bottom. It's
yeah,
totally that. It's totally that. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't necessarily think there people understand the implications for the category when they're looking at a bottle of mezcal the way they look at their well gin, right? A product that can be made from start to finish in such a small amount of time, including the growth of the raw material. It's like comparing apples and oranges. There's no comparison. And so to be asking for a mezcal to be of a similar price point to what you're expecting your well gin to be, I think is a dangerous thing. And you might want to educate a little yourself a little bit more about why that's dangerous, right? But
Hmm.
I think it's very true that cocktails have been the reason why this category has grown in a lot of ways, right? And there's not a lot of bars out there that can take that can charge $30 for a cocktail because they're using a $70 bottle of
Oh no.
mezcal, right? Like
Or wild agave for a cocktail. You need to be very talented. I know several bartenders in United States or Mexico, they are able to
yeah.
represent a beautiful wild agave in a cocktail, I'm sure, but not everybody.
Yeah. And I think I have a lot of appreciation for the way that cocktails have introduced and helped the growth of the category. I also wish that as a category and those of us working in the category, we would be more proactive in helping to migrate people from that cocktail space into the sipping space because a lot of people come into the category and appreciate it in those cocktails and never move beyond that to really appreciating other expressions outside on their own and really starting to understand the depth of what the category is and what it has to offer. And I think that's super important to be a true connoisseur of the space, right? To take it out of that drink and really be able to sip it on the side and have that appreciation for the spirit itself and everything that spirit has to offer. And so I think there's a lot more education to be done in the space about how we do that, how we take a regular guest who's coming in for their favorite mezcal cocktail and get them into the right mezcal for them to sip on. I think it's super easy to do if we think about it as far as flavor profiles, right? Like if somebody's coming in and ordering the same mezcal cocktail every time they come in because they love it, you're not going to tell them don't drink that anymore, but you'll be like, okay, it's citrus forward. Think about the flavors. And then if you know your back bar, especially in an agave heavy program, you can be like, oh, I think that this is a mezcal that you're really going to enjoy. Here's a little sip for you to try. And I think that migration is super important so that we're not all just fighting for that well space. We're actually enjoying all of the spirits that the category has to offer, right? And so we're transitioning somebody from that entry level. And don't get me wrong, I'm super excited that people are introduced to mezcal in a way that they enjoy, right? And a
Hmm.
cocktail is definitely a beautiful handshake in that way. Um, but then the work comes on us as industry educators and the bartenders as educators in their space to help them make that next transition as far as enjoying the category and in a really kind of more authentic way, if you will, as far as tradition is concerned.
Yeah, yeah. So you bring me also to the next point, because we were talking about education, right? And we are talking about cocktails, and we are talking about the difference between a well product and a well finished product, right? Is the price. I when between parentheses, when the people ask me what I can drink, I say just to go to the price. If it's too cheap, don't touch it, right?
Yeah.
but
And
but
I
yeah,
mean, I think we both have mezcals that fit into that well space and can fit in that well space, but it's not going to be the $15 bottle that you're going to find for gin. Like, if you when you see the 15 bottle of dollar
well,
bottle of mezcal, you should be a little
that
bit more concerned.
yeah, but it's the sad thing. Right now, you find I think one or two brands, they are $10 cheaper than the regular mezcals. Then we know they are done with agaves. They are at the end of maturity, because everybody paid the same price for the agave, Misty.
Yeah.
So it's not no secret. It's not because I pay less than you for the agave that I can sell
No.
a cheaper product. No, that doesn't work like that. It is because they take it younger agaves. They
Hmm.
jump in, maybe, I hope not, they accelerate the process of fermentation, or maybe they add some sugar cane to the end product that is
All of these
sterile.
things.
Yes, exactly. So I'm I think the regulatory council of the mezcal did a great job bringing quantity in United States and helping to bring richness to the people, and also follow the agaves from the plant to the border. That is fantastic because they can follow the agave, who have it,
Hmm.
at what age, etc. But they didn't pay attention to quality, and the quality will give us the prestige that we need to replace quantity for quality. That means can have the same prestige than a bottle of cognac, and we can sell the product a little more expensive for bring back this richness to the people who make the product without quantity. But that bring me
Well,
to, yeah.
I think there's an interesting challenge in that, though, in that, what is the role of the regulatory agency, right? Is it, like, they are to be ensuring that we're standing by certain standards of production and everything, but is it necessarily to assure quality?
No, in the paper,
No.
they are not allowed by the paper to assure quality, and this is a big problem.
Yeah, and so that's something that I think that I always educate about, is that it is the onus is on us as consumers to educate ourselves and to understand how to look for quality products in flavor profiles, in
Hmm.
information
Hmm.
that's provided, because just because it is a certified mezcal does not ensure that it's going to be a quality product. And
Yes.
I think that people confuse that all the time. They think that certified is better, and certified tells you certain things, but it does not ensure quality. And so that's why education around the category is so important, because we
Yes,
have
yes.
to give
You're
people
right.
the tools to be able to evaluate on their own, to understand what a good mezcal it tastes like and what to look for and all of those things. And so,
Yeah, yeah, totally agree with you. But that all this bring me to this next question. So right now, we are we grow in a market that was a niche market. So we have all these people. They was geeks, nerds, collectors, people really love with the mezcal industry. Most of the time, interesting, coming from the whiskey side and not from the tequila side. Normally, the tequila side are very tequila, 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 right? In my experience. But
mhm.
so right now, we notice in 2020 that the people are going to the liquor stores with no one taking their hands and help her to pick a bottle of mezcal. So the companies to have presence in the liquor stores, they sell in much of the cases more in 2020 than in 2019 without restaurants and bars. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, all these brands they ask for commodity because they pay better, faster, etc. They was only in the bars and restaurants. They suffer a lot in this pandemic time.
Yeah.
So now that we are in the big public, how we will bring education to the big public? Or more difficult question, is the big public want to be educated?
I think they do. Well, not everybody. There's no absolutes in it.
No,
And
absolutely.
that either, right? But I think in general, so I think a perfect example of this is uh, Shaker and Spoon. I don't know if you know Shaker and Spoon, but it's a subscription service where you get a box. They do a different box that they curate every single month, and it highlights a particular spirit category for the month, and you get all of the non-alcoholic ingredients in the box that you need to make 3 or 4, I forget, cocktails of each cocktail of 3 cocktails, right? And so all you have to
Okay.
do is go and buy the base spirits, right? So I've been lucky, Del Maguey has been featured in one cocktail in 1 month, which has been great. And then the book that I wrote, we were featured, cocktails from our book were featured in 1 month. And so I've interacted with the consumers who are part of the subscription service, and they are hungry for knowledge. Like they love it. They have Zooms like this where they do ask me anythings. I've done presentations on Mezcal. I get follow-up questions in my email from them. They have a private group on Facebook. People, the people who loved cocktails and bars shifted. The people who enjoyed drinking mezcal in bars shifted, right? And they started looking for the bars that they remembered, the bottles that they remembered from the back bars, right? And
Hmm.
that's what, like you were talking about. If you were in both spaces, you were in a very advantageous position,
Hmm.
in the last year because of that. Um, I think that the off-premise space realized very quickly they were caught off foot, right? They were going to make money no matter what because people couldn't drink in bars anymore. They were going to make money, but they were not prepared to answer a lot of the questions that were coming their way by people coming into their stores. And so I think the consumer is interested and the consumer is asking questions. I also think that in the off-premise space, and obviously no absolutes, so this is not in reference to every single store out there in the world, but in a lot of cases they realized that they were not educated enough necessarily to get the pull through of the bottles on that they had available on their shelves, and to really cater to get that customer exactly what they were looking for. And so that's a perfect storm, right? We have the opportunity now to create these educational opportunities, which I think is super important. And
Yes,
I think
it's bring the bar to their houses, right?
yeah, and that's great. It doesn't, because I think there was a fallacy. I know here in Boston, right, for example, we were not able to do to-go cocktails for a very long time because there was the package stores were lobbying against it because they thought that that would cut into their profits somehow. Well, that's a
Hmm.
fallacy. Allowing to-go cocktails, people will add a to-go cocktail onto the meal that they're already getting to go, but they're still going to go and buy that bottle of mezcal or whiskey from the liquor store if that's what they really want. It's not going to cut into their profits in any way whatsoever. And so I think that even as the bars and restaurants open, people are still going to want to be able to do this at home. It's become part of the habit for them.
Hmm.
It's become part of the process. It's like the same as making dinner,
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes, but the difference is when you go in a bar or restaurant, you drink 2 glasses, you drive back home, and you go in bed, right? While pandemic, you need to go to the liquor store, buy the full bottle, right? Make your cocktail at home, right? And well, not all we are professionals to make cocktails, so we make some good or less good or whatever. But we bought the full bottle, right? So that was the good part of the pandemic. Is the full bottle was sell. So this person, no, normally the people don't drink by themselves, so they have the people of their own bubble, safety bubble,
pod.
to come in a home and in the backyard or wherever, drinking the bottle they just bought. So this is a great exposition, right? Because
Yeah.
next day the guy to come into their house and say, "Oh my God, I get the best cocktail yesterday with the mezcal. I don't remember the brand. Let me thinking." And they are there in the liquor store and they say, "Oh, I like these stickers. I like the sticker. I like the price. I will get it." Right. So
Yeah.
that helps a lot the category, and but they introduce you to this new monster that is the big public. We know what it mean. You have a vodka, they say in their label, made by hand. I don't know how they can make by hand 50,000 bottles a day, but they is made by hand. So the big public are ready to believe that is made by hand, right?
I mean, we're right back to education, which is where we all started, right? And that's why I think, I think organizations like the Mezcalistas are so important, right? Because they have from the beginning created a site that was for a consumer, and it towed the balance of offering things that were nerdy and geeky enough that the trade was involved as well, but not so complex and over everybody's head that if as a consumer I went to take a look at the Mezcal 101, I felt completely alienated that I didn't want to read more, right? And so I think organizations like that have been catering to the public since their inception are so important, right? So very, very important. And I think as brands, we can learn so much from them, right? Because we were spoiled, right? We were having our heyday in the bars and restaurants. Everybody so focused on as much focused on their back bars and their cocktail program as the food, which had never happened before. We were really in our heyday when the pandemic hit, and this was a little bit of a wake up call in that we were maybe not necessarily making that connection to the ultimate consumer that we should have put more focus on, right? we were,
Well,
were we
we have time to do it right now, right?
Yeah,
It's where we
well,
have to go. It's where I'm going. It's now,
yeah,
now
well,
we
we
are
were
not selling
relying
only to the to the professionals. We are
we were
selling down
relying
to
so much on
everybody.
them. We were just relying so much on the bartenders to get things done for us, and we're so grateful, and we would show our appreciation for that in many different ways, whether
Of
it
course,
was a
of course.
visit to Oaxaca with us or whatever it was,
Yeah.
to really show thank you for that loyalty. But at the end of the day, we were not ourselves making that ultimate connection with the consumer, right? And how, like, so really finding the we've had opportunities to find a way to do that now, and this
Yeah,
is
and we
but
have
I
to
think
do it. It's expensive.
we
It's
have
a
to do
very
it.
expensive. It's more easy and cheaper to get with the professionals because they are always together associated than go
Mhm.
individually for the people and say, well, this is the kind of product that we are selling. So make your choice, but make your choice wisely, right? No,
Mhm.
not only buy because we don't buy a book because how beautiful is the first page, right?
Yeah.
The front page,
Yeah.
and we need to teach that to the public now. So it's a new challenge to come. So for going in front of the challenge, we need to have a lot of educators. So myself or yourself by ourselves, we are not able to do that, right? Because now we going to the big public. That is the next step that each category who grows have to go.
Yeah, but I think that if we've learned anything through all of this for the last year is this, right? This medium that we're
Mhm.
doing right now, which is, people were like, I can't wait until we don't ever have to do Zoom ever again. And I'm like, actually what we've learned is Zoom is super effective, that
Yes.
I can set up an entire day and reach so many people in so many different markets doing back to back hour long trainings, and whether that's a rep or people at liquor stores so that they can actually help a guest find the right mezcal for them, or if it's the consumer themselves, there's a way to do it, right? And so I think this medium, although I'm definitely, there are definitely the days where I am very, very tired of it. I think what we've recognized is that this is a perfect way for us, especially those of us who don't have as many hands on the ground in a bunch of different markets,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to really ultimately meet the consumer where they are, and physically where they are in this virtual space, but also where they are in their enjoyment, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
it's really teaching them the 101 of where the flavors come from in a mezcal that they're enjoying, or if it's going to that next level to be like, okay, let's go beyond the espadín that you've been enjoying to really understand the difference between varietals, it's super easy to do in this medium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a really great reflection. But I was before the pandemic. I was trying to put my distribution always in Zoom, and always was the same answer: no way. Right? I really hope after the pandemic they will accept to reconnect again in Zoom, because is the
Hmm.
best way that you can communicate. But the next question is there, and thank you for bringing by from my hand to these different topics of all what is this science that we call selling, right? Or introducing a new category. So right now is Zoom against live, right? So Zoom is good for the good public, is you have somebody who is able to reach the good public for make an event, as you said. You receive your
Hmm.
box with your ingredients, and you start testing. And these little bottles of 2 ounces, I love them, by the way, but is it's such a mystery word to start filling bottles. Well, it's something new for me, but whatever. So you have Zoom against live, right?
Yeah,
I cannot see my work in front of a computer, in my opinion. I think the personal contact that you have with the people, these horrible hotel rooms, these in Finnish travels in airplane, or being in the airport, I think is part of our lives, right? And it's
of
something that
course.
is I love, in my opinion, in my point, in my mind, I love that part. But certainly I can be much more effective in the Zoom. But when it will we will be more, in your opinion, where we will be more effective in our work, in Zoom or in live? I mean, what events is better being live, and what events is better to be in live, in Zoom?
So I don't think it's an either or. I think if we're going to be successful, it has to be both, right?
Hmm.
Like I remember being in Texas, and I sat in on training that you were doing with a group of bartenders, and you were doing a virtual tour of your palenque in San Dionisio Cotepec,
Hmm.
right? And how cool is that? You have a bunch of bartenders who are sitting in Texas. I think we were in Dallas actually,
No, I
and
think we were in San Antonio Cocktail Conference.
no, I feel like we were in Dallas Fort Worth for some reason, but we can
Oh,
fight about that all at
maybe,
another
maybe,
time.
maybe.
but but to be able to like have bartenders, like we love to take people and have this firsthand experience. It's impossible to take everybody, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't even take all of the people who actually work in the trade who are selling our product that I would like to take. There's just not enough time. It's like you have to be respectful of the producers, all of these things. It's a balance, right? Not to mention all the consumers who are now interested, right? So if we have this opportunity, we've shown that this can work to bring aspects of that through this virtual space to a larger group of people. So I think to really, I think that fight for the bottom on the well and the bottle price on the liquor store shelf, right? If you're able to show aspects of production in real time, like building a roast, so that people see how labor intensive just one aspect of this product and process is, that brings a different conception as to what that bottle of mezcal should cost, why that bottle is $70
Hmm.
instead of $20 or $15, right? I think that that's super important, especially for the consumer, to have that opportunity to be able to see aspects of that. And even if it's just one aspect like the roast, if you put that in the context of the larger timeline of what it takes to create mezcal, to produce delicious mezcal from the planting or from the seeding of a plant all the way to being into a bottle in their hands at a liquor store, and they see a half an hour of super hard work, that resonates with people.
Mm-hmm.
That
Well,
resonates with
the
people.
quality, you know, the
And the
quality is
quality,
you are not
yeah.
drinking, you're not drinking making something that is made in 10 minutes with machine. You're drinking something that is made in 3 weeks, 4 weeks with a hard work. And when you see a maestro cutting these agaves with huaraches, my God, it's when you really understand what is this
Yeah,
about, you know?
yeah. And so
And yeah, get it.
I think that if we discredit that, like we need to take the parts of this, like I cannot wait to be back in Oaxaca and be doing an Instagram live at 4 o'clock in the morning, as they're starting a roast, right? Like like that's the kind of thing that we're realizing now how important it is, right? We knew before, but none of us, I think, were really taking advantage of it the way that we should have been, as far as educating,
Hmm.
for our brand specifically, but for the category at large, right? Because it, you know, it, there's so many great mezcals out there, and it's not benefiting any of us if there is something that's more industrially produced, that's using chemicals, that's cutting corners, that's getting every single well because they're representing themselves just by a cheap price point and nothing else, right? Like that's not beneficial to any of the families, no matter what brand they're working for, that's actually doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the long race, when you see the full photography, it's really bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
I love. Sometimes I say, well, yeah, when you are and you are proud to be a industrial mezcal, it's okay. They produce jobs, and the people know what they are buying. But when you are behind a beautiful bottle, but you are in an industrial mezcal and you don't say it, I think that is the problem, because they cause problems with education and they cause problem for the full category. But
and
I really more worry about the artisanal mezcal. They are not represent as well that the industrial mezcals, you know.
well, I think that I, I know that you said that people like industrial mezcals are just industrial mezcals and people know what they're getting. That's the problem, right? Because without education, people don't know what they're getting.
Yes, the people don't get, but you know, since 2 or 3 years, you find a really nice packaging from the industrial mezcal. I see a lot, most of the time in the Chicago market, that is a humongous market, but you see mezcals and you see, oh wow, what a beautiful packaging. And where they say artisanal here, and nowhere you find artisanal, but you need to be educated for know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And maybe we need to push for, because in the norm they have to say somewhere about this category, because it's not a mezcal category, it's a industrial mezcal category, right? So
well,
we need it's time to make changes. You know, the norms can be revised each 5 years. We are right now in the 5 years, very close to the 5 years, to revise our norm 070 to and yes, Hippocrates Nolasco did a great job bringing tons of total mezcal in the United States, but now we need to focus in quality and stop to going only in bring quantity, right?
I mean, I would love to see an industrial as a category.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think
Yeah,
it's going to happen?
they will be fantastic. You know,
It would
again,
be.
you
What
have
are
a
the
lot of
chances
public.
of that?
How many people they don't care what they drink? We have a tons of people they really don't care what they drink. Is when I ask you, do you really think the people really want to be educated? No, they want just to be drunk for cheap. And it's
Yeah.
okay. And it's okay, because I understand that not everybody have my passion for the alcohol. You know,
Hmm.
all my money go in the quality of what I drink, but this is my passion. You know, I
Yeah.
like to buy expensive stuff because I like quality, but other people love $2 margaritas. You know, I will not judge them. If they like $2 margaritas, they will get what they pay. Ulises saying
Yeah.
very well, each person have the mezcal they deserve. That is
Yeah.
that is, and it's okay. And it's okay. Well, I cannot live without you talk to me about your book.
Oh.
So tell us a little bit about was the idea behind the book and where your book is, etc., and what it's talking
uh,
about.
so the book is called Drinking Like Ladies, and it was published, man, I guess it's 3 years ago now, almost 3 years ago. But it was a project that started more than 10 years before that. My co-author, her name is Kitty Amen, Kirsten Amen. We call her Kitty. She's Kitty. She's Kitty.
Okay, Kitty.
And she and I, as part of Women's Classic Cocktail Society that we started here in Boston called LUPEC, Ladies United for the Preservation of Endangered Cocktails, we would throw big parties. We educated people about women's history and cocktails. We'd throw parties that would benefit local charities that supported women. So we've raised over $40,000 for various charities here in the Boston area. And we used to write an article in a weekly magazine called The Weekly Dig, that really, we would highlight a woman in history and then we would toast her with a classic cocktail. And so a friend of ours in the publishing industry was like, you should write a book. This would be a great book. And so we wrote a book proposal and then got turned down by about 20 different, this was, 13 years ago, 15 years ago, turned down by about 20 different publishers with excuses like, oh, it's a little too niche, like women's history, half the population, nobody wants to know about that, like all of these things. And so we thought it was dead in the water, but shortly after our last president, whose name I won't say, was elected, and, interest in women's causes, women's history, also the start of the Me Too movement, all of a sudden there was a lot more interest. And out of the blue, a publisher contacted us through our old blog and was like, "Did you ever think about writing a book?" And we're like, "Yeah, 10 years ago, where were you?" So yeah, we told the story of about 75 women, mostly from history. We profiled a few modern women as well because our Ruth Bader Ginsburg was amazing, and Dolly Parton is also an icon. So a few modern women, but mostly women from history. And then we invited 75 female identifying women women identifying bartenders from around the globe to create cocktails inspired by those women. And so those women from history. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind and super, super fun. All of the proceeds from the book, we still donate to women's charities. So that's extremely important to us. And yeah, I guess that's it.
This book was translated to Spanish?
Unfortunately, no.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's say not yet.
Not yet. Of course, we need it. We totally need it, and more very close to 8M, right? So congratulations for that.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books. I really
Oh,
like
thank
it. I really like it. I learn a lot, and I think the place of the women in alcohol industry is essential. I think the woman was the person who invented the beer. That is the reason of my big belly. I love it. I love so much these IPAs. My God. Well, independently of that, also in the mezcal industry, the place of the woman is very important. We have a lot of immigrant people who immigrate to United States, live in their palenques, and their wives, their sisters, their mothers take care of this palenque because you don't leave the produce. You don't leave one village without alcohol, right? So they needed somebody to replace them. So while the males coming in United States try to get in a better life, their women, the mothers, the sisters take care of these palenques and are doing a fantastic job. And wherever who is hearing us and know how hard is make mezcal and see these ladies cutting the agave, carrying the agave, mashing the agave, because you have to mash them also, not only roasted, right? And when you roast, it's a hard work. So it's an intense, super hard work made by these ladies, and the quality also. When you try some mezcals made 100% they have another perspective of flavor that I love. So I
I
think it's
think
very
it's
important.
also I think it's also important to note that even, it doesn't necessarily take people leaving for the women to take over. Women have had a very active role in parts of the process for always,
Mhm.
like the making of the mezcal and the running of the family, like those things are very much tied together. And even in situations where the men are not leaving to come to the US, I think we had a perfect example in Santo Domingo, Alboradas, a couple of years ago, where both of the sons, Esperidion, he passed away unfortunately this past January, but
Oh,
his
sorry.
knees were very bad. So his sons were really kind of doing the majority of the heavy work, right? They were both called for servicio in their community in the same year.
Oh.
And yeah,
Oh yeah, these servicios. I have a program that we talk about that. Is
yeah. So the daughters stepped up and were making mezcal for that year. And Esther and Imelda, they were amazing, and it was really cool to talk with them as we got towards the end of the year. I remember hosting one of my groups, and they were distilling that day, and one of my guests asked Esther, who was helping with the distillation, like, have you what have you learned in this year? And she's like, well, I've always helped with steps of the process, but this is the first year that I've really been doing all of the steps from start to finish, right? Like I would come down and I would help with the build the roast, like all hands on deck for the roast. And sometimes I would be down with my dad helping for the distillation and bringing firewood
Mhm.
in or whatever. But very rarely did I have the opportunity to do every single step from start to finish. And this year I've been doing every step in succession. And she's like, I feel like I can make mezcal now,
Yes,
having
totally.
done all of those steps, And so, like, in that year, she was able to put all the pieces together. She already had the pieces, but she hadn't put them into a complete puzzle, right?
Yes.
And so that was really cool to hear her say that, that she had had all of this knowledge, but she had never been able to compile it in this really organized fashion. And so it was really cool to see just how naturally the shift took place within the family,
Mhm.
which just really shows how the family works together always.
Mhm. Yeah,
It
the
wasn't,
family is important in the mezcal
um,
industry, no doubt about it, and it's for that and the knowledge is just to come the generation in generation in generation. Misty, thank you very much for your time and passion. This is fantastic to have you in this program. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I hope to cross your path very soon. I
I
will
know.
finish with my vaccines and I will hit the road.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure. And yes, I can't wait to see everybody, including you.
Thank you. That will be great. I hope see you in Oaxaca or see you in Boston or maybe in I don't know, New Orleans or Texas. So I don't know where. I'm pretty sure I will see you again. I think the last time I crossed your path was in Portland also. So in the
Wow.
West Coast, I don't remember very well, but I see you a lot of places, and I always happy to see you and learn from you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.